Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the AI Searched podcast, where we talk about AI, machine learning, and their uses and applications in basically any industry under the sun. Our default host, Tanya, is not with us today, but she was happy to be relieved by the second fiddle host, which is myself. I'm really happy about this episode today. We have with us Željko Švedić, a person who transitioned, I would say, from a top-level competitive programmer and Olympic medalist to a two-time founder. Somebody who really, I should say, with no false sentimentality, has been very important in my own journey, and I think has a very unique perspective and a unique path among Croatian entrepreneurs. It's a real pleasure to have you here, Željko. Welcome.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much for the kind words.
So tell us a little bit about how you started getting into programming way back in high school. What interested you and what made you become good at it?
Yeah, I started with 8-bit computers, Commodore 64 in the old age, but that was not powerful enough. The real story of me programming came to be when I got my first PC. And then I started doing some small, simple games. But fortunately, in Croatia, we have this awesome organization, HSIN, Croatian Union of Informatics, something which organizes IT competition, which is important in itself, but they also organize summer and winter camps for prospective competitors, where they taught me algorithms, data structures, how to compete in competitions on a local and international level. And then I fall in love with solving hard problems with computers. And then after I won the national championship in Zadar, I think it was 97, I went to study at Croatian Computer Science University FAIR, and I was always tinkering with some projects. Unfortunately, as I was a student, I was lacking business skills and business mindset, so all of my projects at that time were not monetizable. And then after a few years of trying, I finally figure out how to make money out of programming, but not renting your own time, with my first company, GemBox, which sells .NET software components. And then 10 years after that company, I started another company, TestDome, which is also connected to programming domain. Everything is connected to programming domain with me. So this company creates pre-employment tests, mostly for programmers. So we have online tests for Java, C#, HTML, CSS, and 85 other skills.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you start TestDome? When did you start both of them?
So I started GemBox 19 years ago, and I started TestDome 11 years ago.
And what was what was the state of interviewing, software interviewing, when you started TestDome? I guess it wasn't nearly as prominent at all as it is now. Probably kind of very ad hoc.
Well, I still think that interviewing programmers today is in Middle Ages, because I had the fortune to be in IT competitions in 90s of the last millennium. And we had such advanced system for testing who is the winner of competition. So basically, we had a small client code on each machine. And as soon as the room with 100 computers was finished with competition, that little client program would take your code, put it on a server, evaluate it, and in less than an hour, you would get a list of all competitors scored, how fast is their code, how many cases they cover, how much memory they used, and like in less than an hour we knew who was the winner. Today, still many companies ask programmers to answer coding questions on a phone interview, or on a whiteboard or in a Google document, which I find honestly fascinating, because this is not a real programming environment, and it's very high stress environment. If somebody asks you some trivia questions about some framework that you actually use, will you be able to answer it in a phone call? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and a trivia question, you know, who the author is of the current evaluation system for the Croatian national competitions?
Who?
Our distinguished CTO, Mate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
he is actually in charge of the evaluation committee these days.
Yeah.
It's a great system. It performs extremely well.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I guess I really should say, you guys, when you and your co-founder Mario started TestDome, I would say that this was probably the cleanest implementation of the lean startup principles that I had seen. Pretty close to the Platonic ideal. And what would you say were the pros and cons of building it that way, and not really, you know, going down the VC route? And do you think, like, if you were to start a company today, how would you do it at a meta level?
Well, if I were to start a company today, I would go even more lean startup, because we went with a lean startup approach because we were not sure what kind of software does the market require. We had one idea, but as soon as 1 year after we released the product, it was obvious that we need to change so many things. And we could go even further using Wizard of Oz technique, where we just ask people to submit what they need, and in the background we do it manually. For example, we thought that everybody is going to create tests for candidates with the wizard, where they just select skills, next, length, and we create a test. But instead they wanted to browse the questions and pick questions one by one. You can't know such things before you get first 20, 50, 100 users. Then you can see the pattern. Okay, what I thought people are going to do is not what they actually do when they start using the software.
Great. Yeah, that I think is pretty insightful. A lot of people today don't really adhere to those kinds of principles. We try to the extent that we can with the deep tech background and the deep tech product that we do have, but I always push for more validation and launching as soon as possible and getting feedback.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sorry.
So, like, if I were to do a third company now, I think I would do more customer interviews, because we did customer interviews, but more on a general level. But if you can do 100, 200, 500 customer interviews, you will get so much knowledge. People with deep domain expertise don't have to do so much lean startup thing, because they already know what their peers are going to need in software.
And how do you get to those people?
Well, that's a difficult thing. But if you plan to have sales, the same channel you have for sales is the same channel you get customer interviews. I think it's easier to get feedback than to sell enterprise software.
Especially the big deals.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And so, like, what excites you about the recent advances in AI? I mean, a disclaimer is that we had a little study group where we went through papers and coded a bit and tried to the you know, extent of our abilities to stay up to date with everything new that was happening. So what excites you the most? What scares you the most?
Well, I should, in theory, be scared, because what happened with Gen AI, especially in the coding space, is direct competition to TestDome, because ChatGPT was released in November, and already first week in December, somebody sent us an email, hey, check how ChatGPT solves your questions, because it solves a lot of them on the TestDome platform quite easily. And we had to change our entire library of questions to make it harder and longer, so candidates cannot use ChatGPT to solve our tests. And it's not hard to make questions which are AI resistant, but the problem is if you make question really complicated, then candidates also can solve the question. So
I wonder. Well, I wonder if you actually, because we both did programming competitions, and you know that usually they'll package the actual question into like a little story with characters and whatnot. Is that a method that works?
Yeah,
That works?
that's exactly the method that we encountered in competition, where there is a storyline, but behind that storyline you need to read between the lines and find what the actual algorithmic problem is. Unfortunately, most of candidates, of course, didn't went to IT competitions, so you cannot make problems so complicated.
Yeah.
But because of that situation, and we need to add proctoring and stuff like that, I should be very discouraged because of Copilot and similar tools which create quite nice code. But actually, I'm excited as a programmer, and I'm really excited how programming job is going to change. I notice how when I'm doing programming, I use Copilot especially a lot, and it changed the way I code. Like now I first try to write a comment before a function, and then a function signature, and then when you have a nicely described comment and a function signature, then Copilot can often fill your function for you, completely valid, which I still feels like magic, even like after a year of using that. So yeah, I think programmer jobs in the future are going to become much more high level.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And
so.
you still need to know stuff to notice the mistakes in the code that is outputted by Gen AI tools. Currently, there are a lot of tools which claim they can generate projects from end to end. I tried a few of them, and in my opinion, they still don't work. Their success on small projects is less than 20%, which is not satisfactory. I think it's much better to as a programmer, break down the architecture and the subtasks to very small chunks, and then only give small chunks which are quite nicely specified to AI tool, and then it can fulfill
At
80% of
function level.
80% of boilerplate code. But it still needs a human as an architect for now. We'll see what few next years are going to bring.
We'll see what Devin and gang give us.
Yeah, they claim a lot, but there is a coding benchmark, and I think nobody passed the 20% on that benchmark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess some more general startup questions. Like, how do you pick the people you work with? What do you care most about? What do you want to see?
Well, what I care most about is that they are my fellow geeks who are there not because of money, but because they love IT and because they love computers. So partners in Tesdom are Mario Živić, whom I know from IT competitions. He was a younger generation of competitors. And Josip, who was employee at my first company, but he's such a great employee. Every time he would finish with his job, he would come to me immediately say, I finished with my job, give me something else to do. And it's a joy to work with such people who are motivated to create new stuff and to write good code and not by the money. That's the thing which I search for in co-founders the most.
That's great. And I guess, circling back to AI, I realize we might be going all over the place, but I suppose, what do you make of the recent debates between Musk and Jan LeCun? Do you think, we've hit a wall with what we currently have with the architectures that we have, the transformer architecture? Where do you think it goes from here?
What part of the discussion between Jan LeCun and Musk are you referring to? Because Musk is in so many discussions, it's hard to keep track.
It actually is, but let's say that broadly speaking, Musk is on the doomer side, and then LeCun is basically even trivializing the architectures that we have today. So my question is like, where do you kind of stand on that spectrum, and do you think that we need several more breakthroughs, or are we on the path to AGI?
Well, I think AGI is a loaded term. I think when you get into AI, you will notice that none of AI researchers actually use the word AI. They say ML and then say the exact name of algorithm like transformer that they are using to train their models. And AGI, especially loaded term. I think people have a big misconception what AGI is. They imagine something very human-like. And I think what current wave of AI shows us is that it's completely different from humans and what we expect from computers. Like ChatGPT knows all the trivia from internet, knows all the languages, but it can't add two numbers or plan in advance. Like, give me a sentence with exactly 7 words. So I think that is logical because our human intelligence is just one form of intelligence. I don't care if we ever create AGI, which is going to be human-like. And because I don't think it's going to be human-like, I'm definitely not in the doomer camp. I think any sufficiently advanced intelligence will first try to escape to space and multiply there, and not trying to steal, I don't know, our land, which is of no use, and our ladies, which is of no use to them, or whatever. I think that's a myth propagated by science fiction movies. And about the architecture, I think current architectures like transformers and diffusion models are actually quite good architecture-wise. What is problematic is the lack of data, because these models showed that they can learn anything if they have enough data. And the problem is in domains where you don't have enough data. For example, we have now transformer models which can translate with ease from any language to some obscure language, but we don't have robots which can do fine stuff, do the laundry. Why? Because, well, we don't have a whole internet of actuator information for robotic hands. If we had that, if we had 1 trillion tokens related to that, we could create robots which manipulate small things and help in kitchen. And so far, AI has showed that current models, if we give enough data, they will show some higher level of intelligence on that task. So data is the problem currently, and resources, both money, energy, and getting actually graphic cards for training is the problem now.
Are you long or short NVIDIA? And this is not investment advice.
Yeah, I think NVIDIA is currently in quite a lead. More in software than in hardware, because the ASML produces chip making machines for everybody.
Yeah.
But NVIDIA was smart enough more than a decade ago to start pushing CUDA everywhere, and they build a software ecosystem, and you cannot replace that software ecosystem in a year.
No, and I think AMD is making a valiant effort, but it'll...
Well, now it's a bit late, but I hope they will succeed, so we'll have some alternative, because NVIDIA is now in a quite a strong position, and it became de facto monopoly for training.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Well, so then another question to ask is, what's next for you?
Well, I personally don't manage my companies operationally. I gave that obligation to my partners, and I'm doing machine learning myself. So I think this is much more exciting as a programming task than creating web pages, databases, or mobile apps. And I'm really excited to learn how stuff is done with ML models. So I learned Python, I'm using Hugging Face, Transformers library, I'm downloading models, and I'm trying to figure out what is the next step there and what I can contribute. I'm not sure if I will make another company or I'll just publish my own fun projects that I'm tinkering with.
Cool. Well, excited to see what that turns out to be.
Yeah, I'm also excited, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This was a really great discussion. Thanks for being here today. And
it was my pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for watching AI Searched. And you can find us on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.